My father threw a party to celebrate kicking me out of his house. There was a banner, music, people laughing, and everyone was there to watch. What he didn't know was that his entire life was about to fall apart. Before I tell you what happened, comment where you're watching from. I read every single one. Because this story, it happens everywhere. My name is Elena Carter. I was 31 when that happened. Not a quiet conversation. Not even an argument. A performance. I pulled into the driveway just after 3 p.m., planning to grab the last of my things and leave without friction. Instead, I saw a banner stretched across the garage door. White vinyl. Thick black lettering. End of the free ride. Below it, in smaller print. Time to grow up. That was the moment I realized something. This wasn't about helping me. This was about humiliating me. There was music playing loud, country rock echoing through the neighborhood like a backyard festival. Smoke curled from the grill. People were laughing. Actually laughing. At first, I thought I had the wrong house. Then someone noticed my car. And everything shifted. A man I vaguely recognized, one of my father's friends, raised his drink and shouted, "Speak of the devil." More laughter. Another voice chimed in, louder this time. 31 and still living at home? That's wild. Then something hit the side of my car. Soft. Wet. A slice of watermelon hit my car. Then slid slowly down the door while people laughed. Last free snack, someone yelled. More laughter. Even the kids were watching. Pointing. I stayed in the driver's seat longer than I should have. Long enough to realize something important. No one there thought they were being cruel. And that was their first mistake. They thought they were right. When a lie gets repeated long enough, people stop questioning it. They believe it. It becomes identity. I didn't react. Didn't defend myself. Didn't argue. I stepped out of the car, walked past them, and went inside. The house felt smaller than I remembered. Quieter. Detached. Like it already knew I didn't belong there anymore. My last box was waiting in the hallway, neatly taped, labeled in thick marker. Essentials. Inside, instant noodles, paper towels, a half-empty bottle of detergent, and a printed list of cheap apartments. I stared at it for a second. Not hurt. Not angry. Just aware. The performance extended even here. I picked up the box, walked back outside, and paused. Then I took out my phone. And I took one photo. The banner. The crowd. My father standing under it, smiling like he'd just accomplished something meaningful. He noticed. Our eyes met. He smirked. Getting a souvenir, he called out. I held his gaze for a second longer than necessary. No, I said. For later. Then I got in my car and left. And that was the last time I ever helped him. And the version of me they were laughing at? It wasn't real. The story they told about me was simple. Convenient. And humiliating in a way people enjoy because it lets them feel superior. I was the daughter who never figured it out. The one who drifted. Worked from home doing something vague. Came back after life didn't go her way. Lived off her father's generosity. Did nothing to deserve it. That version of me was easy to believe. It fit neatly into conversations at barbecues, church gatherings, and online comment sections where people love phrases like, "Sometimes tough love is necessary. Maybe this will wake her up." But the truth? The truth didn't fit into a sentence. It never does. I moved back into my father's house 3 years earlier. Not because I failed. Because his business was failing. He owned a small fabrication and signage company, Carter Custom Installations. For years, it did decent work. Storefront displays, branded wraps, commercial signage. Nothing glamorous, but stable. Until it wasn't. Material costs went up. 2 contracts stalled. 1 large job got tangled in permit issues. Cash flow tightened. Then snapped. From the outside, it still looked functional. Inside, it was collapsing. Quietly. Bad bookkeeping. Missed deadlines. Late payments. Overdue taxes. The kind of slow, administrative decay that doesn't explode, it suffocates. And my father? He didn't adapt. He got louder. Blamed clients. Workers. Regulations. The economy. Eventually, me. Never himself. I didn't plan to stay long. That's what I told myself. Just help him stabilize things. A few weeks, maybe a couple months. But problems don't come alone. They arrive in clusters. I fixed one issue, 3 more appeared behind it. Invoices weren't tracked properly. Vendor contracts auto-renewed at inflated rates. Permits expired. Client emails went unanswered. Deadlines missed by days, sometimes hours. And no system in place to catch any of it. So I built one. Quietly. My work didn't look like real work to my family. No uniform. No visible exhaustion. No physical proof. I worked remotely as an operations consultant, organizing systems, managing documentation, structuring bids, preventing failure before it became visible. It paid well, because most people hate that kind of work. And most businesses fall apart without it. I was good at it, which made me valuable to strangers. And invisible at home. At first, I just helped. Then I started covering gaps. Small ones. A subscription renewal here. A missed utility payment there. A vendor deposit to keep a job from collapsing. Nothing dramatic. Just enough to keep things moving. Quietly. That's how it stayed hidden. Not because it was small. Because it was consistent. Over time, consistency becomes infrastructure. And infrastructure becomes invisible. My father never introduced me as someone keeping his business alive. He introduced me as my daughter. She's figuring things out. When I prevented a contract from falling apart, he laughed it off. When I negotiated payment terms with suppliers, he called it helping out a little. When I covered payroll gaps, he said, family doesn't keep score. That sentence matters. Because people only say it when the numbers don't benefit them. Over time, the pattern became clear. My work was expected. My presence was tolerated. My value was denied. And the rest of the family followed his lead. Because in a system like that, alignment isn't discussed. It's understood. My cousin mocked me. My aunt made passive comments wrapped in concern. My younger sister learned quickly, approval came from joining in. No one needed instructions. The hierarchy handled that. The shift didn't come from how they treated me. It came from what they believed. My father started talking about selling the house. Downsizing. Starting fresh. And I realized something unsettling. He believed his own version of the story. He thought he had carried me. That I owed him. That my presence proved his generosity. Not the other way around. That was the moment everything changed. I didn't confront him. I documented. I didn't argue. I started documenting everything. Quietly. Because emotion gets rewritten. Facts are harder to erase. I built a timeline. 34 months. Every payment I covered. Every system I implemented. Every crisis I prevented. Every message that began with, "Can you just handle this one thing?" Every voicemail asking for a small favor. Every transfer. Every silent fix. I categorized everything. Business support. Household expenses. Direct family assistance. Unpaid labor. I tracked it all. Not out of anger. Out of clarity. The total forced me to stop. Lean back. And stare. It wasn't just high. It was absurd. When I added everything up, I expected a few thousand. Maybe 10. It wasn't 10. It was over $118,000. That didn't include labor. Because labor like that is hard to price. What's the value of preventing collapse? Of catching failure before it's visible? Of absorbing chaos so others can pretend things are stable? There's no clean number for that. So I didn't try. I just recorded what I could prove. Around the same time, I received an offer. A long-term contract from a logistics firm in another state. Stable. Predictable. Enough to leave. Start over. Independently. I accepted. Signed the paperwork. Secured an apartment. And told no one. I started moving things out slowly. One box at a time. Nothing noticeable. Things I had paid for. Things that mattered. Everything else stayed. 6 days before I planned to leave, my father confronted me. Kitchen. Morning. Coffee in hand. That tone people use when they expect agreement. I think it's time you move out. He framed it as concern. Growth. Responsibility. He said I needed to become a real adult. That no man would respect me otherwise. That my presence embarrassed him. I listened, then asked one question. Do you want me gone? Or do you want people to see it happen? He smiled. Both. That told me everything. I didn't argue, didn't reveal anything, because I understood something critical. Truth delivered in private can be rewritten. Truth delivered publicly sticks. He gave me until Saturday. I nodded, like someone defeated. By Friday night, I had already removed everything important. Disconnected the quiet systems I had built. Canceled backup payments. Removed my cards. Stopped intervening. Saturday was the party. Silence is a strange thing. At first, it feels like peace. Then it starts to expose everything that noise was hiding. The first 3 days after I left, no one called. Not my father. Not my sister. Not anyone from that house. Because in their minds, the story was finished. They had made a point. I had left. Which meant they had won. That's the illusion people cling to when they've built their confidence on someone else's quiet support. They mistake absence for surrender. 3 days later, things started breaking. A client flagged a submission error. A permit renewal had lapsed. The documentation attached to a job was outdated. Normally, I would have caught it before it ever reached the client. This time, it sat, ignored, until the client escalated it. My father called once. I didn't answer. Then he called again. And again. I still didn't answer. Tuesday, the internal systems started breaking down. The project management software, unpaid. Access restricted. Schedules disappeared. Work orders stalled. Install teams left waiting for instructions that never came. My phone lit up with a message from my sister. Dad says log in and fix whatever you broke. That was the moment I knew. Nothing had changed. I stared at it for a moment, then set my phone down. By Wednesday morning, the situation had escalated from inconvenience to disruption. A utility warning hit the workshop. Payment overdue. Pending disconnection. That one mattered. Without power, operations stop. No fabrication. No production. No revenue. At 7:14 a.m., my phone rang again. This time, my father left a voicemail. His tone had changed. Softer. Measured. Ava. He stopped. Corrected himself. Elena, call me back. There's some confusion with one of the accounts. I think your card might still be linked to something. Confusion. That word again. As if everything that had been holding his business together had just accidentally existed. I didn't respond. Thursday, the tone shifted again. My uncle called. 3 times. Left a voicemail on the third. Less arrogant than usual. More controlled. Which meant he was nervous. Hey, listen, about the other day. You know I didn't mean any of that. Just got carried away. Look, can you help out with the van payment? Just temporarily. We got a job lined up Friday, and if we lose it. He paused. Then added the word that always comes out when systems start collapsing. Everyone's gonna suffer. Everyone. That word does a lot of work in families like mine. It erases accountability, spreads responsibility, and pulls you back into a system you've already left. I still didn't answer. Friday was when the pressure turned personal. My sister called. Crying. Not subtle. Not controlled. Real panic. Dad's losing it, she said immediately. Everything's falling apart. Dean's blaming him, Grandma's saying it's punishment, and nobody knows what to do. I listened. Quietly. Then she said what she actually wanted. I just need a little help. 600. I'll pay you back. I swear. There it was. Not apology. Not accountability. Just continuation. Like nothing had changed. I asked her one question. Do you know why he can't help you? Silence. Then irritation. No. He just keeps saying things are tight. Tight, I repeated. Then I let out a small laugh. Not mocking. Just recognition. That night, she texted again. Angrier this time. Accusing me of being petty. Of punishing the family. Of making everything worse because my feelings got hurt. She ended it with, "You weren't even paying rent." I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I sent one screenshot. Just one. A cropped section of my records. 3 months. Line items. Her name. The business name. utility payments, transfers, dates, amounts. Underneath, I wrote, "Since you're interested in contributions." She didn't reply for 2 hours. Then, "What is this?" I answered, "A fraction." Saturday morning, my father called 6 times. By the third call, the confidence was gone. By the fifth, so was the authority. On the sixth, all that remained was urgency trying to sound controlled. "Elena, we need to talk. There's clearly been some misunderstanding about what you've been handling and what's been turned off." Turned off. Like everything I had done was just a switch I flipped out of spite. That was the moment I decided to end it properly. Not emotionally. Structurally. I compiled everything. Not dramatically. Not aggressively. Clean. Precise. Undeniable. 32 pages. Cover sheet. Timeline. Categorized breakdown. Proof of payments. Screenshots of messages. Documentation of missed filings. Emergency interventions. A conservative estimate of unpaid labor. And at the very end, one photo. The banner. The party. The moment they publicly defined me. I printed 2 copies. One for me. One for whoever needed to see it. Sunday, my grandmother called. Her tone was different. Not angry. Measured. Carefully controlled. Which meant she had already heard enough to know something wasn't adding up. "You shouldn't be keeping score," she said. "Generosity doesn't work like that." I leaned back in my chair. "Generosity doesn't," I said. "Accounting does." She didn't like that. I could hear it in the silence. Then she shifted. Softer. "Your father's under pressure. You know how he gets." I did. That was the problem. "Let me ask you something," I said. "If I show you proof that I've been holding that business together while he calls me a freeloader, will you tell the truth?" She didn't answer. Which was an answer. An hour later, my father texted. "Talk now. Please." I replied. "Tomorrow. Noon. Public place." He responded instantly. "Home." I stared at the message. Then typed. "You wanted an audience when I left. You can have one now." We met at a roadside diner. Neutral ground. No distractions. No control. He was already there when I arrived. Sitting too straight. Too still. Like someone trying to hold on to authority that was already slipping. My uncle was with him. Of course. I sat down. Placed the packet on the table. And slid it forward. "What's this?" my father asked. "The difference," I said, "between your version and mine." And for the first time, he didn't have control. He opened it. Confident. Dismissive. That lasted about 10 seconds. His eyes dropped to the total. Then snapped back to me. Like the number itself had offended him. "This is inflated," he said immediately. I didn't respond. I just watched him turn the page. My uncle leaned in. Read a section. Then leaned back. Quiet. For once. My father flipped faster now. Looking for something. An error. An exaggeration. Anything he could challenge. "This software wasn't for me," he said, tapping a line item. "It was for the business." "Yes," I said. "Your business. These fuel payments, temporary." 3 months, I said. "All after you told me payroll was stable." He stopped flipping. Because he realized something. There was no weak point. No exaggeration. No emotional language to dismiss. Just records. So he reached for the only argument he had left. "Family helps each other." I nodded slightly. "When I lived in your house, you called it freeloading," I said. "But when you lived off me, it became family." That landed. Not loudly, but deeply. He lowered his voice. "Don't do this here." I met his eyes. "You mean where people can hear it?" My uncle tried to step in. "Look, nobody meant what happened at the party." "You didn't apologize when you sobered up," I said. "You apologized when things stopped working." Silence. My father tried one last shift. "You were still living under my roof." There it was. His foundation. His justification. His entire structure of control. "If I had paid rent somewhere else," I said calmly, "and kept my money away from your business, you would have lost everything 2 years ago." He didn't respond. Because he knew. I stood up. Not abruptly. Not emotionally. Just finished. "What do you want?" he asked. I looked at him. Really looked. For the first time without obligation attached. Nothing, I said. That's the part you still don't understand. And that was the moment everything shifted. Not for him. For me. I walked out of that diner without looking back. Not to make a statement. Not to prove anything. Because there was nothing left to say. People think moments like that feel powerful. Victorious. They don't. They feel quiet. Like a door closing in a house you've already left. For a few days, nothing happened. No calls. No messages. No attempts to pull me back in. And that silence told me something important. They weren't processing what I said. They were trying to stabilize what I had stopped holding together. Collapse doesn't happen all at once. It happens in layers. The first layer was operational. Missed deadlines turned into canceled jobs. Canceled jobs turned into lost clients. Lost clients turned into cash flow problems that couldn't be hidden anymore. The second layer was internal. Without a single target to absorb pressure, the tension spread. My uncle started missing work, blaming my father. My father pushed back. Louder. More aggressive. The same way he always had. But now there was no buffer. No one translating his tone. No one fixing the damage after he caused it. The third layer was personal. And that's where things really started to fracture. About 2 weeks later, my sister showed up at my apartment. Unannounced. No makeup. No performance. Just tired. At first, she tried to keep things normal. Small talk. Surface-level conversation. But it didn't last. "It's bad," she said finally. I didn't ask what she meant. I already knew. She sat down slowly. Like, even that took effort. "Everything's falling apart," she said. "The business, the house, all of it." Then she said something that mattered more than everything else. "When you were there, he focused on you." I stayed quiet. "Now you're gone," she continued. "It's like, he doesn't know where to put it." That was it. The entire system. Explained in one sentence. Families like that don't function on stability. They function on direction. Pressure has to go somewhere. And when it doesn't have a target, it spreads. I asked her one question. "Did you actually believe I was doing nothing?" She didn't answer immediately, which told me the truth before she said it. "No," she admitted eventually. "I knew you were helping. I just didn't know how much." Then she added something else. Something more honest than anything she'd said before. And if I said anything, he would have turned on me. That wasn't an excuse. But it was real. She stayed one night. We didn't fix anything. Didn't pretend things were normal. But something shifted. Not closeness. Not forgiveness. Just awareness. After she left, things escalated faster. My father sent me an email. Subject line: proposed resolution. Inside was a structured offer. He wanted me to return. Temporarily. As a contractor. To stabilize operations. Payment would be discussed later. Once cash flow improved. At the bottom, he added one line. This could also help rebuild trust. I read it twice. Then laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was predictable. Even now, he still believed access to me was negotiable. That my value was something he could defer. That the system could be rebuilt if I stepped back into it. I replied with 4 sentences. Clear. Final. I am not returning. I am not providing unpaid or deferred labor. Do not contact me for business support again. Future communication should be respectful and personal only. He responded almost immediately. So you're just going to watch everything collapse? I stared at the message for a long time. Because that was the real hook. The one that had kept me there for years. The idea that if he failed, it would somehow be my responsibility. That if I didn't step in, I was the one causing the damage. That's how systems like that keep you. Not with love. With obligation. I typed slowly. Carefully. You're not losing everything because I left. You're losing everything because it only worked while someone you disrespected kept it running. He didn't reply. A month later, a package arrived. No return address. Inside was a dish I had left years ago. Ceramic. Plain. Wrapped in newspaper. No note. No explanation. Just returned. I sat there holding it, trying to understand what it meant. Then I laughed. Because I did understand. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't closure. It was accounting. A silent attempt to balance something without acknowledging the real debt. A few weeks after that, my sister texted me. The house is being sold. Not by choice. Because there was no other option left. By necessity. I didn't respond right away. Then another message came. He says you ruined him. I read it once. Then typed back. I didn't ruin him. I stopped protecting him from what he built. She replied with 3 words. I know now. The house sold below asking. I checked. Not out of obsession. Out of confirmation. Sometimes closure isn't emotional. It's administrative. A listing. A sale. A transfer of ownership. Proof that something ended. Whether anyone admits it or not. My uncle disappeared from the business. Drifted somewhere else. Like people like him always do when things stop working. My grandmother moved in with relatives. Still convinced everything could have been avoided if people had just stayed humble. And my father. Downsized. Smaller place. Smaller operations. Fewer clients. Still trying to rebuild. But without the invisible structure that used to hold everything together. He called once more. Months later. From a number I didn't recognize. I'm not calling about money, he said immediately. Which told me exactly what he thought I'd assume. Then he said he had found one of my mother's old recipe cards. Thought I might want it. That was the first time in years he had offered something without attaching a demand. You can mail it, I said. There was a pause. Then he asked, quieter this time. Did you really think I was that bad? I could have explained everything. Broken it down. Walked him through every moment. Instead, I said one sentence. You hung it over the garage. Silence. Then the line went dead. The recipe card arrived 4 days later. My mother's handwriting. Faded slightly. Still neat. At the bottom, a small note. Add more seasoning if he complains. I laughed. Then I cried. Not from sadness. From recognition. I framed it. People ask me sometimes if I regret it. Not helping one last time. Not stepping in when things started to fall apart. It sounds like a kind question. But it isn't. Because it assumes something that isn't true. That the most moral person in the story is the one who sacrifices again. I don't believe that anymore. If someone only values you when you're useful, they don't value you. They value access. If a family can humiliate you publicly, but panic when your support disappears, the panic tells you everything you need to know. I was never the burden. I was the system. The quiet fix. The unseen correction. The reason things didn't collapse sooner. And my father's biggest mistake wasn't throwing that party. It was believing the person he humiliated would keep the lights on afterward. I still have the photo. The banner stretched across the garage. The smoke in the air. The laughter. My father standing at the center of it. Certain he was documenting my failure. What he actually captured was the exact moment his safety net walked away. So no, I don't regret leaving. I regret staying long enough to confuse being needed with being loved. And if there's one thing you should take from this, it's this. Sometimes the loudest revenge is removing the quiet support no one ever noticed and letting the truth do the rest. If you've ever been treated like you were nothing and later realized you were the one holding everything together, comment, I see it now. And tell me where you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels.